As per the practice agreed upon, allow me to begin our session as the head of the country that is currently chairing the organization, and then I will give the floor to other participants about today's meeting. Distinguished colleagues, friends, Russia's chairmanship in the Shanghai Cooperation Organization has coincided with a difficult stretch when all of our countries have come up against the coronavirus epidemic, as well as the need to fight this epidemic. That is why we have had to make certain adjustments to the agenda of our joint work. We have been paying additional attention to the cooperation of our countries in healthcare and issues related to protecting the lives and health of our citizens. I would like to underscore that the SCO countries have been providing great assistance and support to one another in the fight against the infection. To cite an example, Russia has sent its SCO partners free of charge around 500,000 test kits for detecting coronavirus, as well as non-contact thermometers. And as for Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan and Uzbekistan, we have sent teams of our medics to these countries, and the total number of these missions has reached 9. Our sanitary and epidemiological services, as well as healthcare ministries of the SCO countries, have fostered an efficient exchange of data and experience. Incidentally, today we will endorse the comprehensive plan of the SCO to fight epidemics, as well as a special statement on coronavirus-related issues. It is important that the pandemic has not brought about a decrease in activity in the key areas of the SCO interest. Under Russia's presidency, we have held the total number of around 60 joint events that have been attended by representatives of government, agencies, parliaments, business, and civil society organizations. A number of these events, due to the reasons all too well known, have been held online, and yet the SCO has managed to preserve a high level of cooperation. By today's meeting, we have drafted a significant package of documents to reinforce our cooperation in political, economic, and humanitarian fields. I would like to point out that the SCO countries have significantly intensified their cooperation along the foreign policy and military lines. Our foreign ministries met twice, and in September, Moscow hosted a joint meeting of defense ministries of the SCO. For the first time, it was attended by the defense ministers of the Collective Security Treaty Organization and the CIS countries. I believe this is a very useful endeavor, and such extended meetings are going to become a regular feature for us, natural partners. And I believe this will help us bring to new quality the coordination of our security-related agencies. It will allow us to monitor the situation in the field of security and defense in Greater Eurasian space. Under Russia's chairmanship, we continued with the practice of joint military exercises with the participation of military and special units of SCO countries and our partners, in particular from observer nations. In particular, we have held a counterterrorism exercise in Kazakhstan. China hosted an exercise in preventing attempts to use the internet for extremist purposes. Russia hosted the first stage of a border operation entitled Solidarity. Apart from that, Russia and Kazakhstan have organized 2 international anti-drugs operations entitled WEB. And of course, I cannot help but mention that this whole year has been marked by celebrations of the 75th anniversary since the end of the Second World War. All the SCO member countries have paid special attention to holding commemorative events to mark this occasion. It is symbolic that the Russian armed forces were joined by military units from the SCO countries during the victory parade in Red Square in Moscow. And today, after this meeting, we are going to adopt a statement which states that we deeply respect the memory of the Great War. We will highlight the heroism of our nations who suffered greatly and irrecoverably to save the world from Nazism. This is not just a tribute to those who fought against the enemy. It is also an important message to the whole international community, speaking about the unity of our nations and their willingness to work together to fight for peace and security. Colleagues, it is evident to everyone the situation in the global security and regional security is very complex because terrorism, international terrorism and drug trafficking still pose a significant threat. We see an upsurge in cybercrime and the strategic stability system continues to deteriorate. Regrettably, regional conflicts. Fierce regional conflicts are still persistent. Apart from that, we see new sources of tensions emerging, in particular in the external borders of the SCO and in adjacent regions. That is why one of the SCO key areas is facilitating a peaceful political and diplomatic settlement of crises, as well as neutralizing the threats emanating from hotspots. We are still particularly concerned about the state of affairs in Afghanistan. The SCO is doing a lot to help our Afghan friends to achieve national reconciliation, to build lasting, durable peace. We've set up an SCO Afghanistan contact group, which has drafted and endorsed a roadmap for further actions our organization will take in Afghanistan. All of this seeks to assist Afghanistan in building a stable and safe state free of terrorism, drug, crime, and living peacefully with its neighbors. Over the recent years, with the SCO support, Russia has organized a whole series of meetings attended by all Afghan political forces without exception. We intend to further comprehensively facilitate national reconciliation in Afghanistan and to use the opportunities presented by the Moscow framework of consultation that also includes Afghanistan's neighbors, some of them our SCO members, and of course the US is also there. We still see instability persisting in the Middle East and in North Africa, armed confrontation in Libya and in Yemen, the pockets controlled by armed gangs in Syria that are still persisting there, all of this. These are sources of terrorist threat, drugs and arms. And of course there is another issue that merits particular attention, that is the transfer of fighters outside this region. This only exacerbates conflict even further. Incidentally, what is happening in Karabakh right now is a very big tragedy. And it gives me pleasure that I see the contours of a compromise as well as the agreement achieved to put an end to the bloodshed. I am hopeful that all measures that we have undertaken recently will help secure lasting peace for the good of the peoples of Azerbaijan and Armenia. There is another glaring challenge and menace to our common security, and these are the ever more numerous attempts to directly interfere within the domestic affairs of countries participating in the SCO. I refer to the attempts to violate sovereignty, drive a wedge in society, change the direction of countries' development, undermine political, economic and humanitarian ties that have been formed over centuries. Belarus, which is an observer in the SCO, has come under the blow of such external forces. After the presidential elections, our friends from Belarus have come under unprecedented pressure. They have to fight against sanctions and provocations and also counter the information and propaganda war unleashed against them. We believe it is admissible that someone from outside should try to obtrude anything on Belarus. We believe that it is necessary to allow Belarus to sort it out on their own, calmly take the necessary steps. And the same fully applies to the recent events in Kyrgyzstan as well as to the internal political strife we see unfolding in Moldova. Distinguished colleagues, as for the economic agenda of our organization, Russia, as chair, believes that all our countries are interested in further developing our business cooperation, boosting mutually beneficial cooperation and trade, industry, and the digital economy, innovation, as well as high-tech. And also in securing food, transport, and energy security. The coronavirus pandemic has dealt a very significant blow against the world economy, bringing about a global recession. Of course, our organization has not been spared these difficulties. According to the estimates, on average, the SCO economies in 2020 are going to shrink by 3.2%. This is lower than the world average. Well, at least these are the estimates. The world economy is going to shrink by 4.4%. The trade between SCO countries shrank as well. In January to August, Russia's trade with other SCO members decreased by 7%. Given that, the SCO has come up with a package of joint measures to rectify this situation. I refer in particular to implementing the 2019 program of multilateral trade and economic cooperation until 2035. It seeks to overcome negative trends in mutual trade and to significantly reinforce our ties in investment cooperation, finance, banking, industry, energy, transport, and other areas too. And to rebuild our cooperation in social, economic, and humanitarian fields, we're actively engaging business circles and civil society. We've got our Business Council, Interbank Consortium, and the SCO Youth Council up and running. We are developing interregional cooperation under the framework of the SCO Regional Forum, whose first session incidentally has taken place just recently. It was on October the 29th. I'm confident, colleagues, that you are going to speak more about the issues I've mentioned as well as other issues, and I'm hopeful that today our work is going to be productive, constructive, and efficient. Thank you very much for your attention, colleagues. Now I would like to give the floor to the leaders of the SCO members. And first, I would like to give the floor to the Prime Minister of India, Mr. Narendra Modi. Prime Minister, the floor is yours.
Excellency, the President of the Russian Federation and the chair of our meeting today, all other excellencies and all of my friends present here today. First and foremost, let me begin by congratulating President Putin for his able leadership of the SCO and for organizing this meeting despite the challenges and restrictions posed by COVID-19. I'm pleased that we were able to take forward a comprehensive and progressive agenda for cooperation and integration in the SCO. Excellencies, in the context of SCO, this is an important year for India. It will be for the first time that we will be organizing a summit-level meeting, which is the SCO Council of Heads of Government. A comprehensive agenda has been prepared for the summit meeting, in which special attention will be given to economic cooperation. In order to share our rich experience with regard to the startup ecosystem, we have proposed the formation of a special working group on innovation and startups. We have also proposed a working group on traditional medicine so that the knowledge regarding traditional and ancient medicine and the progress in contemporary medicine become complementary to each other. Excellencies, it is India's strong conviction that SCO member nations can emerge out of the crisis of economic losses caused due to the pandemic by a combination of economic multilateralism and national capacity building. In the post-pandemic world, we are moving forward with the vision of a self-reliant India. I believe that a self-reliant India will prove to be a force multiplier for the global economy and will provide momentum to economic progress in the SCO region. Excellencies, India has enjoyed close cultural and historic ties with the SCO region. Our ancestors have kept this shared historic and cultural heritage alive by untiring and regular contacts. Steps like the International North-South Transport Corridor, the Chabahar Port, Ashgabat Agreement demonstrate India's strong resolve towards connectivity. India believes that in order to further strengthen connectivity, it is important that we move forward keeping in mind the fundamental principles of respect for each other's sovereignty and territorial integrity.
अपने 75 years, 75 years पूरे किए, लेकिन अनेक सफलताओं के बाद भी संयुक्त राष्ट्र का मूल लक्ष्य अभी अधूरा है।
Where is translation from Hindi?
आर्थिक और सामाजिक पीड़ा से जूझ रहे विश्व की अपेक्षा
Excellencies, the United Nations has completed 75 years since its inception. However, even after many successes, the key objective of the United Nations remains unfulfilled. The world, which is grappling today with the economic and social suffering caused by the pandemic, expects radical changes in the United Nations system. Parivartan mev stirimasti, the only constant is change. India will participate in the UN Security Council from 2021 as a non-permanent member. We will focus our attention on possible changes in the global governance system, a reformed multilateralism that reflects the global realities of today, that discusses subjects such as the expectations of all stakeholders, contemporary challenges, and the welfare of humanity. We hope to have the full support of SCO member states in our efforts. Excellencies, Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina, Sarve Santu Niramaya. May all be happy and disease-free. This slogan for peace is a hope, an expression for hope for humanity in this extremely difficult period caused by the unprecedented pandemic. India's pharma industry has supplied essential medicines to over 150 countries. As the country which is the biggest vaccine producer in the world, India will use its vaccine manufacturing and distribution capacity to help all humanity fight this crisis. Excellencies, India believes strongly in peace, security, and prosperity. And we have always raised our voice against terrorism, illegal arms trafficking, and money laundering. India has been firmly committed to work within the SCO as per the principles enshrined in the SCO Charter. However, it is unfortunate that efforts are being made unnecessarily and repeatedly to bring bilateral matters into the SCO agenda. This is a violation of the SCO Charter and the Shanghai Spirit. These efforts go against the spirit of consensus and cooperation that define the SCO. Excellencies, I fully support celebrating SCO's 20th anniversary in 2021 as the year of culture of the SCO. India's National Museum is working on organizing this year the first SCO exhibition on our shared Buddhist heritage. India's National Academy of Letters, Sahitya Academy, has completed the translation of 10 Indian literary works into Russian and Chinese, and I am sure that next year India will be able to host the SCO Food Festival in a pandemic-free environment. I am pleased that all the officials and diplomats of SCO countries have participated with great enthusiasm in the yoga event organized recently in Beijing with the cooperation of the SCO Secretariat. Excellencies, once again, I compliment President Putin for his able and successful leadership, and I thank him for hosting this meeting. I convey my congratulations and best wishes to President Emomali Rahmon for presidency of SCO for next year. I also assure you of India's full support for Tajikistan's successful presidency next year. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prime Minister. You have mentioned several important topics, and I wanted to highlight several of those. You mentioned innovations and startups, and it's a crucial thing. If we join efforts, we will be able to accomplish many things. You've mentioned deep and profound ties between the countries of the region, and it is true that in order to grow successful, we need to support each other. Our strength comes from supporting each other. I hope that all of our future and present efforts will be geared towards this goal. You mentioned the anniversary year for the SCO, and thank you for highlighting the events to commemorate the SCO. And now I give the floor to President of Kazakhstan, His Excellency Tokayev. Your Excellency, Mr. President, colleagues, primarily I want to thank the Russian presidency and to you personally, Mr. President, for putting together this event. I want to use this occasion and to congratulate President Emomali Rahmon, to congratulate him with his confident victory on the recent presidential elections. We have among us the acting President Zhoparov, who has fully assumed responsibility for the fate and destiny of our neighborly country in the heat of this pandemic. Due to the restrictions induced by the coronavirus, we cannot meet in person, but it does not diminish the importance of the summit. For all the member countries and the Secretariat have provided a very valuable input, and the SCO is operating in its nominal mode. It operates fully, and the case in point is the package of documents that we are about to adopt today. I am confident that all of these documents will promote the good standing of the SCO in the world. Colleagues, it's been 20 years and it's been a long road. Over this period of time, the SCO has proved to be one of the most successful international organizations. It is truly believed to be an efficient tool for building confidence and cooperation in the space that spans a quarter of the Earth area, a third of the global GDP, and a quarter of the population. Now, having said that, this region is going through profound and deep changes. Coronavirus tested the resilience of humanity and exposed all the flaws and drawbacks of humanity. Pandemic has exacerbated the relationships between many states. Many tools of conflict prevention and settlement have failed. Terrorism, arms race, hybrid wars, climate change, and many other challenges are on the rise. In geoeconomy, we see the standoff between two many trends, the globalism and anti-globalism. According to the statistics, in 2022, the decline of the global economy will drop by 4.4%. Tourism flows will decline by 70%. Foreign investments can plummet by 40%. Against this backdrop, we need to find a solution to the most relevant challenge. How do we make the SCO fit for purpose, fit to address the needs of our societies? I am positive that the Shanghai spirit and the spirit of finding solutions to the new challenges of our era will help us to cope with this immense challenge. For Kazakhstan, it's critical to make sure that our joint efforts will serve the noble cause, will serve the interests of our peoples. In this, we're together in this, and we need to make our immune system more robust in the face of the coronavirus. I want to highlight the following. The SCO proved to be very efficient in coordinating the response to pandemics. A friend in need is a friend indeed. I think it's a saying that all of us share and all of us understand. The mutual humanitarian assistance and sending the epidemiologists to the neighboring countries helped to stabilize the situation in our countries. Kazakhstan wants to thank our partners, including Russia and China, for the meaningful cooperation in this very relevant challenge. At the same time, we are fully aware that this is a long and winding road. The fight against coronavirus is far from over. It will have an impact on the economy and health of our states. And I think that today we are going to adopt a comprehensive joint plan of action for responding to coronavirus. I hope that this will be our joint response to the pandemic. Under the aegis of WHO, a network of centers for biosafety and biosecurity should be created. This is our initiative, and I hope it will be supported. Separatism, terrorism, and extremism, these three scourges have risen in the context of pandemics, and we need to respond to it. How exactly can we do it? We need to revitalize the cooperation between the SCO member states in our joint response to fight off these scourges, including in the internet. All the domains of human life are moving online, and it gives greater relevance to cybersecurity issues, which is why we advocate creating a cybersecurity center on the basis of SCO RATC. Kazakhstan stands ready to continue our cooperation within the contact group SCO Afghanistan, and we need to emphasize economic recovery of the country in the work of this group. Stability in Afghanistan underpins the prospects for greater cooperation in the Eurasian space. It is apparent now, it is evident that it will take a lot of effort to fight these three scourges. We need to come together and mobilize the potential of our countries and not to allow the erosion of the moral and ethic values of our countries. Which is why we support the declaration of the next year as the year of the SCO culture. The escalation of the global arms race shows how relevant is it to launch in earnest the effort to control the bioweapons and biohazards. We are all fully cognizant of the risks that such weapons pose. During the anniversary General Assembly session, I proposed to establish an international agency of biological safety. I expect you to support this initiative. Value chains and supply chains have been disrupted during the coronavirus pandemic, and it shows how crucial it is to improve the economic cooperation within the SCO. We hope that the Agenda 2025 for the SCO will guide us in this way to revitalizing trade and making it more robust. We need to establish a tool for monitoring investments, and one tool is lacking. It's a roadmap for augmenting the role of national currencies in our trade. We also need an advisory tool for the financial ministries in order to do so. Innovations and new technologies are crucial for our countries that drive the digital transformation of our countries. I am positive that we need to adopt the technological clusters draft as soon as possible. It will help our countries to innovate more efficiently. It is also important to make regions more engaged in this effort, and we welcome the development of remote and rural regions, which will be covered on the respective document from our package of documents. It is crucial to leverage the synergy between the infrastructure development of the SCO states and member states and observers alike. I also welcome the initiative on building roads in the SCO region. The key connecting link in this effort is the One Belt, One Road initiative, and Kazakhstan will spare no effort in implementing the respective projects, which will help both the Kazakhstani economy and the economies of our partners. We need to address the emerging issues and mitigate the impact on our peoples, which is why we need to build up the cooperation between the respective agencies. The register of environmental risks of SCO is very necessary. It will help us to gain a clear-eyed picture of what's going on in the area. Colleagues, this year marks the 75th anniversary of the end of the Second World War and the creation of the United Nations. The next year is the anniversary of the SCO creations. These landmark years remind us of how important it is to establish, to articulate a multilateral approach to multilateral challenges. In fact, these efforts are a guarantee against the disruption of international cooperation, and we urge to sign more memoranda of understanding with international organizations at large. SCO anniversary is a good occasion to look at our drawbacks, look at our accomplishments, and look at the things that we have failed to accomplish, which is why I urge the Secretariat to provide such an analysis and provide the recommendations for streamlining the SCO work. Our people will accept no less than this. We want the SCO to develop in the spirit of cooperation and consensus, and by doing so we'll be able to improve the well-being of our peoples and the development of our states. We need to join the ranks, which is exactly what I urge you to improve the spirit of Shanghai, and I wish our Tajikistan friends the best in their endeavors.
Thank you so much, Mr. Tokayev. Indeed, you have raised many important issues, and I would like to highlight several of them. The first, improvement of the mechanism of financing of our joint actions, a wider use of national currencies in mutual settlements and payment, building infrastructure, and jointly solving the environmental issues. It is especially important for us because many of these issues are trans-border issues. We're almost all of us neighbors. Naturally, maintaining the culture of the SCO and with the anniversary, it's an important component of humanitarian nature. Thank you very much. And now the floor goes to the President of the People's Republic of China, Mr. Xi Jinping.
Your Excellency President Vladimir Putin, dear colleagues, let me begin by thanking President Putin and Russia for the thoughtful organization of this meeting. During its presidency of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, Russia has earnestly performed its duties and advanced the SCO's sound development despite the impact of COVID-19. China highly commends Russia for its contribution. Since its founding, the SCO has traveled an extraordinary journey. It has stood the test of time and become a major constructive force in the Eurasian region and global affairs. Committed to the Shanghai spirit, SCO members have enhanced cooperation in the political, economic, security, people-to-people, and cultural fields, setting an example for a new type of international relations that features mutual respect, equity, justice, and win-win cooperation. In the face of COVID-19, we have backed each other up to tide over the difficulties together. Such solidarity has injected positive energy into both the SCO's steady development and international cooperation against the coronavirus. Colleagues, the COVID-19 pandemic has accelerated shifts in the international landscape. The world is entering a period of turbulence and transformation. The international community now faces a major test, with choices to be made between multilateralism and unilateralism, openness and seclusion, cooperation and confrontation. What is going on with the world? What should we do about it? These are the questions awaiting answers from the people of our time. Ancient Chinese teachings tell us that men of insight see the trend, while men of wisdom ride it. Humanity lives in a global village where the interests and destinies of all countries are intertwined. People across the world increasingly yearn for a better life. The trend toward peace, development, cooperation, and mutual benefit is unstoppable. History has proven and will continue to prove that good neighborliness will prevail over a beggar-thy-neighbor approach. Mutually beneficial cooperation will replace zero-sum game, and multilateralism will win over unilateralism. In the current circumstances, the SCO is required to carry forward the Shanghai spirit and deepen solidarity and collaboration. Together, we will contribute more to the stability and development of countries in the region and take more steps toward building a community with a shared future for mankind. First, we need to step up anti-epidemic cooperation and build a community of health for us all. Right now, COVID-19 is still presenting an ongoing threat. To fight the virus that respects no borders, we must take up the most powerful weapon of solidarity and cooperation and rise up to the most imperative task of saving people's lives. We need to strengthen our joint response to COVID-19, support each other's containment efforts, and uphold regional and global public health security. We need to support the World Health Organization's crucial leadership role, oppose attempts to politicize the pandemic or mislabel the coronavirus, and jointly resist any political virus. We need to put the SCO's health cooperation mechanisms into full use and deepen exchanges and cooperation in epidemic monitoring, scientific research, and disease control and treatment. China proposes that hotline contacts be created between SCO members' centers for disease control for timely updates on cross-border transmission of communicable diseases. The unique value and important role of traditional medicine has been highlighted in the battle against COVID-19. And we need to continue to hold the SCO Forum on traditional medicine to deepen exchanges and mutual learning in this field. Vaccines play a vital role in defeating the virus. China has joined the COVAX facility. And will actively consider SCO countries' need for vaccines to help protect people's safety and health in our countries. Second, we need to safeguard security and stability and build a community of security for us all. Security and stability are the #1 precondition for a country's development and thus concern the core interests of all countries. We need to act on the vision of common, comprehensive, cooperative, and sustainable security, address all forms of threats and challenges effectively, and foster a sound security environment in our region. We need to firmly support countries concerned in their law-based efforts to steadily advance major domestic political agenda. Firmly support countries in safeguarding political security and social stability, and firmly oppose interference by external forces in the domestic affairs of SCO members under whatever pretexts. We need to deepen solidarity and mutual trust and resolve disputes and differences through dialogue and consultation in order to cement the political foundation for SCO development. It is important that we forestall terrorist, separatist, and extremist attempts to exploit the pandemic for disruption, curb the proliferation of drugs, crack down on internet-based propagation of extremist ideology, and deepen SCO members' law enforcement cooperation. It is important that we uphold biosecurity, data security, and outer space security, and engage in active communication and dialogue in this field. China has launched the Global Initiative on Data Security, which aims to galvanize efforts to shape a peaceful, secure, open, cooperative, and orderly cyberspace. We welcome the participation of all parties in this initiative. The situation in Afghanistan involves the security and stability in the wider region. We need to make good use of the SCO Afghanistan Contact Group to help the country realize peace and reconstruction. Third, we need to deepen practical cooperation and build a community of development for us all. True development is development for all, and good development is sustainable. We need to be guided by the vision of innovative, coordinated, green, open, and shared development, and open up more opportunities for practical cooperation to facilitate economic recovery and betterment of people's lives. We need to forge greater synergy of the Belt and Road Initiative with national development strategies, as well as region-wide cooperation initiatives, such as the Eurasian Economic Union. We need to enhance connectivity and further integrate our industrial, supply, and value chains for unimpeded economic circulation in the region. We need to facilitate reopening of economic activities through the fast track that step up mobility of people and the green lane that quickens the flow of goods. We need to foster an open, fair, and non-discriminatory business environment for each other's companies and expand mutual investment among us. We need to seize the opportunities from the new round of technological revolution and industrial transformation to step up cooperation in digital economy, e-commerce, artificial intelligence, and smart cities. Next year, China will host a China CEO Forum on the digital economy industry in Chongqing, which will provide a platform for innovation cooperation among parties. We need to put the people first and implement more joint projects that deliver real benefits to them. China supports setting up an SCO joint working group on poverty reduction and stands ready to share our good experience with other parties. Fourth, we need to nourish people-to-people amity and build a community of cultural exchanges for us all. Each civilization is distinct, and none is superior to others. We need to promote mutual learning between our civilizations and enhance good neighborliness and friendship between our countries. This allows us to enhance public support for the SCO's long-term development. We may use various forms of communication to make the SCO's achievements more widely known and win stronger public support for the SCO vision of cooperation. We may support the organization's exchanges and cooperation in education, culture, sports, media, and women's welfare, and institute an all-round, multi-channel structure of deeper cooperation. China will host an SCO non-governmental friendship forum next year, and will continue to hold SCO youth campus events, to which 600 young people will be invited in the coming 3 years to deepen mutual understanding among the younger generation and bring them closer together. We may better coordinate the SCO's cooperation agenda with the necessity for a long-term fight against COVID-19. We may employ new working methods and flexible cooperation forms and keep the relevant mechanisms running effectively. The SCO Secretariat and the regional anti-terrorist structure need to play their coordinating role, and SCO members need to give stronger support to the work of the permanent bodies. Colleagues, 75 years ago, our forefathers won the World Anti-Fascist War and founded the United Nations, thus writing a new chapter in human history. Drawing lessons from the past, we need to act to champion multilateralism, improve global governance, and uphold the international order. We need to follow the principle of extensive consultation, joint contribution, and shared benefits, and build a world where global affairs are discussed by all, the governance system built by all, and development fruits shared by all. The SCO needs to expand its network of partnerships and conduct extensive cooperation with observers, dialogue partners, the UN, and other international organizations. It should play a more active role in international and regional affairs and stay committed to building an open, inclusive, clean, and beautiful world that enjoys lasting peace, universal security, and common prosperity. Colleagues, China cannot be separated from the world in achieving development, and the world also needs China for prosperity. Now, China is speeding up efforts to foster a new development paradigm with domestic circulation as a mainstay and domestic and international circulations reinforcing each other. New mechanisms are being put in place to build an open economy of a higher standard. China will remain committed to a win-win strategy of opening up. It will seek development impetus from the world and contribute more to the world with its own development. We welcome all parties to capitalize on China's development opportunity and make active endeavors to deepen cooperation with China. China congratulates President Rahman on taking over the chairmanship of the SCO Council of Heads of State and will give full support to Tajikistan during its presidency. Next year, we'll celebrate the 20th anniversary of the SCO. Let us hold high the banner of the Shanghai spirit, forge ahead with strong cooperation, strive for better development of our organization, and build an even closer community with a shared future for us all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, President Xi. I personally paid attention to several very important issues that you have touched upon, the leader of the People's Republic of China in his statement, and that is the need to avoid all kind of politicization in the issues that have to do with the pandemic of the novel coronavirus infection. That has to do both with the role of vaccines that should naturally play an immense role in overcoming this crisis. Besides, I think there was a very important topic that was mentioned regarding the global security of digital data, and naturally will support the Chinese initiative in this sphere, just as well as the Forum for Digital Economy in China. Naturally, Russia will support that. And I hope that my colleagues would agree that we should all take part in that forum. Naturally, I cannot help but agree with the idea that civilizations cannot be distinguished categorized into good and bad. Indeed, it is very important to join our efforts in the humanitarian sphere in order for the integration and interdependence and interconnectedness would create such conditions in the world that all participants, all actors in international relations will benefit from the common good that comes from all the civilizations for the overall harmonious development. Thank you very much, Mr. President. And now the floor goes to the acting President and Prime Minister of the Kyrgyz Republic, Mr. Sadir Japarov. Please, you have the floor, sir. Mr. Putin, President Putin, dear colleagues, please allow me to welcome everyone and to express my gratitude to the President of the Russian Federation, Vladimir Putin, for organizing the SCO summit as a video conference. Despite the hardships presented by the pandemic, during this year, under the chairmanship of Russia, the SCO has done a lot of work and made a lot of headway. That is testified to by the impressive list of documents that will be adopted today. Dear participants of the meeting, in October this year, as you well know, there were certain events in Kyrgyzstan that had to do with the dissatisfaction of the public with the outcomes of the parliamentarian elections. As a result of the public demand, the former president of the Kyrgyz Republic has made a decision to voluntarily step down. The parliament has accepted his resignation, and with my decree, he was given the status of the ex-president. He was provided with all rights and privileges foreseen by the legislation of Kyrgyzstan. The transfer of power in Kyrgyzstan was a peaceful one and fully in line with the current legislation of the country. Currently, the situation in Kyrgyzstan is stable. All branches of the state power are legitimate, and the executive authorities maintain their routine work. Kyrgyzstan would like to thank the SCO member states for the support during those times that were difficult both for the country and the people. As the acting president, in the future, I'll do everything in my power to solve the tasks to strengthen stability and cohesion in the society and ensure social and economic development of the country. Fighting the coronavirus and its consequences, protecting the rights of investors and ensuring security of foreign nationals on the territory of Kyrgyzstan are also our priorities. The elections of the President of Kyrgyzstan are slated for the 10th of January 2021. Conducting a fair and competitive election of the new president is key for future stability in the country. And for that, we have the necessary and strong political will.
On a particular note, I would like to point out that our country is fully committed to all of its international obligations, and it is also committed to strictly observe all bilateral and multilateral treaties and agreements signed previously. The participation of Kyrgyzstan in the SCO is one of our foreign policy priorities. Distinguished heads of state and government, to our great regret, the epidemic of coronavirus is still spreading throughout the world. We see a growing incidence rate of both cases of death and infection in many countries, and yet, despite the pandemic, we've demonstrated the efficiency of our organization. The SCO members have demonstrated their solidarity and mutual support in the fight against this global threat. What we need to do is to pursue further an exchange of epidemiological and organizational experience and support the SCO mechanisms in healthcare and sanitary and epidemiological well-being. And the work along these mechanisms has been intensified during these difficult times of the pandemic. I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate Russia on registering the first vaccine in the world. We're hopeful that it is going to make a huge contribution to the victory over the virus. I would also like to express my gratitude to the leadership of Russia and to you personally, Mr. President, for the timely and regular assistance you've been providing Kyrgyzstan with in the fight against the coronavirus infection. Kyrgyzstan is always going to be Russia's reliable partner in the process of Eurasian integration. We are going to pursue consistently the course towards developing our economic and social humanitarian ties, and I would very much like to request you to give me an opportunity to discuss about all these bilateral issues in a telephone conversation. I would also like to point out the important contribution the People's Republic of China is making towards the fight against coronavirus. It provides humanitarian, technical and medical help to many countries around the world. We're also grateful to China for the significant aid in the fight against coronavirus, both on a bilateral basis and also multilaterally. We're also grateful to the leadership of SCO members and observers, namely Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, India and Iran, for humanitarian and medical assistance they have provided. We highly appreciate the support that has been given to us. Distinguished participants of the summit, we believe that right now it is very important to overcome social and economic consequences of the pandemic and to take efficient use of the SCO potential to the full. That is why we need to concentrate on reinforcing cooperation in trade and economy, in particular in terms of developing the digital economy and implementing large-scale economic projects together. The pandemic has highlighted how important it is to develop transportation and logistics infrastructure across the region. The construction of China, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan railroad in future is going to link our region to the countries of the Middle East and Europe. This will help secure the growth of mutual trade. We also deem it important to come up with concrete measures to implement in practice the agreement between the SCO members on creating a favorable environment for international road transport. To secure funding for these economic projects, we need to intensify efforts to set up an SCO development bank as well as an SCO development fund. And I would like to highlight that within the SCO, we have already come up with a very good legislative framework on cooperation in key areas. But so far, we do not see many concrete results, unfortunately, especially in the area of trade and economy. And this fact shows us that we have to prepare the financial ground, the financial foundation. That is why it is important for our finance ministries should intensify their efforts so that we can come up with concrete solutions by the 20th anniversary of the SCO. Apart from taking measures to fight terrorism and extremism, we have to pay additional attention to information security and also providing security for critical infrastructure. That is why we need to benefit from the potential presented by the SCO regional anti-terrorist structure. We've got to take advantage of SCO partner ties with the relevant international and regional organizations. Given the relevance of these issues and the issues related to organized crime, corruption and economic crime, Kyrgyzstan proposes that we should set up a new mechanism, that is, a meeting of the agencies responsible for fighting economic crime of the SCO countries. Kyrgyzstan attaches a great deal of importance to cultural and humanitarian cooperation within the SCO. I would like to avail myself of this opportunity to express gratitude to you for supporting the Kyrgyz initiative on setting up a cultural and integration center of the SCO. I am confident that this center is going to help achieve greater mutual understanding and improve cultural and humanitarian ties across the territory of our organization. Amid these difficult times the world is going through, we need some uniting factors. And in that regard, we support wholeheartedly the popularization of the principles underlying the Shanghai spirit in international relations. We also believe it is important to promote the constructive initiatives such as the Community of Shared Destiny for the Mankind, One Belt, One Road, and also Greater Eurasian Partnership, because these projects seek to ensure joint development and mutually beneficial cooperation. Distinguished participants of the meeting, next year our organization is going to celebrate its 20th anniversary. And this date is important for us to analyze and to better understand the role the SCO plays in international relations, the role it plays in the development of our region as a whole. This is going to be a useful exercise to determine what measures we need to take to efficiently implement the comprehensive political, trade and economic potential of the SCO. If we consolidate our efforts efficiently, the SCO's significance in the world and in the region is only going to grow. That is why I would like to draw your attention to an important element of the SCO activities, the analytical capacity namely, and also setting strategic goals for the short-term perspective, given the trends of development in the world. And I'm hopeful that the plan of action to implement the SCO development strategy until 2025 is going to help us develop multifaceted cooperation, and it will also reinforce the internal framework and structure of the SCO. In conclusion, colleagues, I would like to thank the Russian side for successfully organizing our today's meeting. And I would like to take this opportunity to point out that as the next chairman, Tajikistan can rely on wholehearted support from Kyrgyzstan. And also, I'm pleased to take this opportunity to congratulate Mr. Rahmon on his election to the post of the President of Tajikistan. I wish prosperity and stability to the brotherly nation of Tajikistan under your leadership. I am hopeful that we're going to overcome coronavirus-related issues, and under Tajikistan chairmanship, we will be able to reinforce our cooperation in economy, trade, and investment. I also hope that the cooperation of our countries is going to be efficient and will help raise the level of life, the quality of life of our nations. Thank you very much for your attention. Mr. Zheparov, thank you very much for your remarks. I took note that, as you've mentioned, the situation in Kyrgyzstan is stable. This is indeed something Kyrgyzstan was somewhat lacking in recent years. We understand without stability in politics, it is impossible to address social or economic issues. That is why we wish this stability to be lasting and durable, and we wish it to benefit both the nation and the economy of Kyrgyzstan. Apart from other things you mentioned, you pointed out our cooperation in the economic area, and I would like to point out that you said we need to pay greater attention to infrastructure, and we indeed have very good projects with Kyrgyzstan, with the People's Republic of China in particular, and I'm very much hopeful that this continuity in political course that you've mentioned is going to be implemented, and Russia in its turn is going to do everything in its power to support you, to help you. You also mentioned consolidating efforts in the fight against economic crime, and I also believe it is very important because amid integration, the growing number of cross-border transactions, remittances, new technologies, startups, amid all of that, there are indeed huge risks, and it is important to pull our efforts together to address these matters. And of course, I've jotted it all down, and I'm going to talk about that with you in our telephone conversation now. I would like to give the floor to the Prime Minister of the Islamic Republic of Pakistan, Mr. Imran Khan. Prime Minister, the floor is yours. Please, go ahead.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. His Excellency Mr. Vladimir Putin, President of the Russian Federation, Excellencies, it is a pleasure to participate in the SCO summit being hosted by the Russian Federation. I wish to particularly congratulate President Putin for successfully leading SCO during these extremely troubled times. We welcome Tajikistan as the next chair of the SCO and assure them of our full support. As we speak, Excellencies, as we speak, the COVID-19 pandemic continues to rage across the world, devastating economies, claiming lives, and disrupting livelihoods. Over 50 million people have been affected by the virus, and more than 1.2 million people have lost their lives. The devastating impact of the virus has affected all aspects of human interaction, and especially public health and the global economy. While progress has been reported in vaccine research, it is unclear as to when the vaccine will become universally available. humanity faces the possibility of a slow recovery and prolonged economic slump with rising poverty and inequality. Under the circumstances, the imperative of a common approaches to limit the spread of the infectious diseases, reduce the effects and develop potential remedies has increased manifold. Yet, global harmony, multilateralism are undermined by rising geopolitical tensions, unilateralism, and isolationism. We believe that the SCO fraternity, with its core principles of solidarity and mutual support, would be effective in combating the effects of COVID-19. Excellencies, this year's CHS coincides with completion of 20 years of the establishment of the SCO. Over the past 2 decades, SCO's prestige and influence have grown significantly. At a time when the world is bereft of global vision and shared solutions, SCO has called for effective multilateralism, with the UN playing a central coordinating role. Pakistan also deeply appreciates China's effective handling of the virus and also the material and technical assistance extended by China to others, including Pakistan. China and Pakistan also are collaborating in vaccine development, with phase 3 trials successfully underway. On its part, Pakistan is open to sharing its own experience in effectively combating the pandemic and keeping the total cases and fatalities relatively low. Our collaborated policy of smart lockdowns and financial support to the most vulnerable segments of the society prevented rapid community spread, protected the poorest from the worst fallouts of the lockdown, and helped stabilize the economy. Our aim has been not only to save people from the virus, but also save people from dying of hunger. Globally, the international community has taken some welcome steps to mitigate the adverse effects of COVID-19. But much more needs to be done, particularly for the poor, who are hit the hardest, both in rich and the poor nations. In this spirit, I proposed a global initiative for debt relief to address debt vulnerabilities of the developing world and to help create fiscal space for them to mitigate the impact of pandemic and achieve sustainable development. We welcome measures taken by the G20 and the international financial institutions to help developing countries, in particular least developed countries, to face economic challenges posed by the pandemic. Further steps are needed to help improve liquidity in developing countries and restore growth. Excellencies, the foreign policy goals of my government are in sync with the SCO's vision of regional connectivity and economic integration. SCO is destined to play a pivotal role in the emerging confluence between the Belt and Road Initiative and Eurasian Economic Union. Pakistan's geographical location provides it an ideal opportunity to crystallize the benefits accrued from the process. The China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, the flagship project of BRI, is poised to play a vital role in this regard. Excellencies, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization was established to ensure security and maintain stability across the vast Eurasian continent. Join forces to counter emerging challenges and threats and enhance trade as well as cultural cooperation. SCO stands for strict observance of this principle and the principles of the UN Charter, such as equality and sovereignty of states. respect for territorial integrity, sanctity of borders, non-aggression, non-use or threat of force, and people's right for self-determination. On the occasion of the 75th anniversary of the United Nations, we strongly support the central role of the United Nations in maintaining international peace and security and advancing global sustainable development. We stress the importance of faithfully implementing UN Security Council resolutions for peaceful solutions of outstanding disputes to create an environment of stability and cooperation. Unilateral and illegal measures to change the status of disputed territories in violation of the UN Security Council resolutions run counter to this objective and adversely affect regional environment. Such measures must be condemned and opposed resolutely for being in violation of the SCO Charter and its well-established principles of interstate relations. Excellencies, I have consistently stressed that there is no military solution to the conflict in Afghanistan and that a negotiated political settlement is the best way forward. As a shared responsibility, Pakistan has steadfastly supported the Afghan-led and the Afghan-owned peace process. Our positive contribution facilitated the US-Taliban peace agreement. The Afghan parties must seize this historic opportunity, work together constructively and secure an inclusive, broad-based and comprehensive political settlement through intra-Afghan negotiations. Reduction in violence is absolutely imperative to help strengthen the momentum reached through these positive developments. We must also remain mindful of the challenges ahead, especially the role of the spoilers within and outside, who do not want peace and stability to return to Afghanistan. Return of the Afghan refugees to their homeland with dignity and honor should be an essential part of the peace negotiations. On the Iranian nuclear issue, we share SCO's call for effective implementation of the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. We join our SCO partners in focusing on the prevention of an arms race in outer space and international information security. The overarching goal of the international security architecture should be the promotion of equal and undiminished security of all states. We welcome the emphasis by the SCO members on data security. In this regard, we strongly support China's Global Digital Data Security Initiative. We reiterate our strong support for coordinating our efforts at this relevant multilateral fora to counter the growing menace of narcotic drugs. Excellencies, Pakistan has been in the forefront of the struggle against terrorism. Our resolve to continue this fight remains undeterred. We believe it is wrong to use terrorism-related allegations as a political tool to malign and target any country, religion, or race. It's critical to address the scourge of terrorism in all its forms and manifestations, including state terrorism perpetrated against people living under foreign occupation and disputed territories. As we commemorate the 75th anniversary of the defeat of Nazism and fascism during the Second World War, we must learn lessons from history and work to ensure against the resurgence of such destructive ideologies. We must also continue to steadfastly oppose extremist and xenophobic tendencies, including racist ideologies inspired by neo-Nazism and Islamophobia. We must resolutely oppose divisive policies based on prejudice and discrimination and focus on building interfaith and cross-cultural bridges. It is imperative that willful provocations and incitement to hate, especially on religious grounds, are universally outlawed. Deliberately insulting religions and sacred religious symbols provokes hatred and violent extremism, leading to further polarization and fragmentation of humanity. Therefore, SCO members should continue to call for mutual respect of all religions and beliefs and for fostering a culture of peace, fraternity, and harmony. Excellencies, my government is particularly focused on providing relief to the poor segments of the society. And this inspiration we have got from the way China raised 700 million out of poverty in the last 30 years. In this context, we thank all members of supporting our initiative for establishing an SCO special working group on poverty alleviation. We must pool our efforts to fight the threat posed by climate change. It is important that all commitments made in the Paris Agreement on climate change are fulfilled. In particular, the commitment to mobilize $100 billion annually as climate finance. On its part, Pakistan is making renewed efforts to mitigate adverse effects of climate change. We have launched an ecosystem restoration initiative. I repeat, ecosystem restoration initiative, which includes the planting of 10 billion trees in the next 3 years. Fighting corruption and economic crimes is another important area of focus for my government. We welcome SCO's emphasis on strengthening international cooperation in fighting these menaces. We must firmly oppose illicit financial flows from developing countries, which impoverish these nations and severely retard their development endeavors. Efforts must be made to bring back the stolen wealth to enable the affected nations realize their legitimate aspirations for development and a hopeful future. I would like to express Pakistan's gratification on becoming a member of the SCO Youth Council. With 65% of our population under the age of 30, Pakistan highly values cooperation in tapping the immense potential of our youth and involving them in the socio-economic uplift of our societies. Excellencies, going forward, I would like to make 6 specific proposals aimed at galvanizing our mutually beneficially result-oriented efforts through the SCO platforms. First, we should create an SCO knowledge bank of best practices to fight COVID-19 in order to guide us through the second wave and beyond. Second, we should work out a strategy as an SCO action plan to mitigate the adverse effects on the economy of COVID-19. And it should be short-term, medium, and long-term, including by prioritization an SCO unified framework for emergency preparations developed in consultation with the WHO. Number 3, we should take a united stand that the COVID-19 vaccine must be viewed as a global public good, affordable and accessible to all. Fourth, we should call for more measures by G20 to meet common challenges like climate change, deteriorating environment, widening inequality within and among nations, poverty, disease, hunger and sustainable development, and above all, the illicit movement of money from developing world to offshore bank accounts to rich countries, which is devastating the developing world. Fifth, we should formulate a multi-year SCO youth strategy with a focus on building partnerships among educational institutions. Sixth, we should develop SCO partnership for technology, offering scholarships and exchange programs for youth in the scientific field. I wish this meeting all the success. Thank you.
Thank you, Prime Minister. You have touched upon many important topics in your remarks, and I wanted to highlight one of those. It's the initiative to alleviate the debt burden of the developing economies, and Russia is making its contribution, and we're trying to alleviate this burden for our partners. We are indeed making steps on this track. Those are deliberate initiatives, and we are fully cognizant of how important it is to facilitate the efforts of the developing countries to make their way easier. Now, to the engagement of youth, it's a crucial thing. You've mentioned correctly, just like the other issues that you've mentioned, such as climate change. Russia has a broad nationwide system of measures that are geared towards improving the situation, and we have some practices to share. We will try to spearhead the efforts on fighting these tracks, and we stand ready to share our practices. Now, to the vaccines. I fully agree with you in that the vaccine should be a part of global commons. You said that it's unclear when the vaccine will be fully available to everyone. Dear colleague, I can reassure you that we have 2 registered vaccines in Russia, and the trials have already confirmed that A, the vaccine is safe, there are no side effects whatsoever, and B, they are efficient and effective. The third is in the pipeline, the third vaccine. So I'm saying this, they are effective. The people who have been vaccinated and who have contacts with people who have contracted the coronavirus, they don't contract it themselves. This is a proven fact. And we stand ready to cooperate with our partners on this. And just like President Xi has mentioned, we urge the public at large not to add a political bias to this issue. This is no exaggeration to say that every person in the world needs this kind of medicine, and we stand ready to work with our partners within the SCO and beyond. This is what I say on the record. We are ready to work with our partners. We need certain funding to put the large-scale production online, but all the scientific and relevant potential is something that Russia has. And we need right now to join the efforts on this track. I want to thank you for your cooperation. And now I want to give the floor to President of Tajikistan, Emomali Rahmon. Distinguished Mr. Chair, Mr. President, colleagues, heads of states. First of all, I wanted to express my gratitude to the President of Russia, Vladimir Putin, for putting together this summit. During the Russian chairmanship, Russia did a lot of work to maintain the momentum in the work of our organization and to make certain actionable results. We welcome the adoption of a large package of decisions and documents as the outcome of this session. Colleagues, Tajikistan assumes the SCO chairmanship, and it coincides with the 20th anniversary of the SCO. It is with this in mind that I want to share with you my vision of the efforts to be done going forward. Tajikistan is committed to working on the principle of continuity, to streamline our organization and to help it untap its potential. Against the backdrop of the coronavirus pandemic, we are facing new socio-economic challenges. National economies, including the one of Tajikistan, has been dealt a significant blow. The pandemics has made us to adjust to some extent the dynamic of the global economic growth. It has driven the sharp unemployment growth. It impeded investment flows and development of trade. Many countries are about to face the threat of food security. Many international organizations state that the negative impact of pandemics on the global economy will be a long-term one. Clearly, these challenges demonstrate the need for adequate and joint response to the issues at hand. In this context, it would be crucial to boost the trade and economic partnership in the SCO region. Another priority for our chairmanship is continuing the internal consolidation of our organization and using all the resources and opportunities at hand to render each other mutual support. We are grateful to the SCO member states for aid and assistance in the Tajikistan's fight against pandemics. Now to the priorities on economic interaction. It would be critically important to focus on ratcheting up the mutually beneficial economic ties. I'd like to underscore the importance of developing and adoption of the short-term SCO measures geared towards mitigating and coping with the social and economic consequences of the current crisis. Another crucial matter is the question of a specialized financial body of the organization, and we hope that we will be able to reach a certain degree of rapprochement to converge the positions of member states on this matter. In case of Business Council and interbanking institution, SCO should cooperate with international financial bodies and establish the mechanism for support of small and medium-sized businesses and to facilitate the investments. We want to promote the broad use of transit opportunities on the SCO space. It is past time that we build up our cooperation in the fields of industrial production, energy, renewables, and specifically hydroenergy. We intend to put together first meetings of ministers of trade and energy of the SCO states. Another key item in the agenda of our chairmanship is to host the agriculture minister meeting and to also invite the bodies responsible for food security. We hope that at this meeting we'll be able to specifically address the issues of overcoming the food security dimension of the pandemic. We intend to facilitate building up the legal framework for unhindered transportation of socially significant staple items, including food and medication. In the context of pandemics, healthcare cooperation looms large. And it's also crucial to cooperate in the areas of prevention and treatment of the COVID-19. As far as humanitarian cooperation is concerned, Tajikistan, as the chairman, would welcome all the proposals to extend our cooperation in the fields of education, science, culture, sports, tourism, and youth engagement. Currently, it's very significant to develop our cooperation in the environment protection, which includes the issue of climate change, and we expect our partners to support our initiatives on the global water agenda, including the proposal of establishing an international glacier preservation foundation. Dear colleagues, sustainable peace and security in the SCO space are a guarantee for our successful development. With this in mind, it's crucial that we work together very deliberately and tackle the global challenges and threats to security. Countering radical ideology, especially its spread and popularity among the youth, requires collective efforts. We also need to counter the criminal use of new technology and the internet resources. But apart from cyberspace issues, we will focus on eradicating the social causes of terrorism and extremism. Challenges and threats vary in their origin, which requires a tailored approach to every single one of them. And we want to underscore the relevance of our previous proposal of a standing body of the SCO, the Anti-Narcotics Center in the Tajikistan city of Dushanbe. During the term of our chairmanship, we are going to facilitate the expansion of cooperation of our states through the respective defense ministries and border security services. It is still crucial to improve cooperation in the border protection in Central Asia, and in this context it's worth remembering that the situation in Afghanistan is still complicated. We have repeatedly emphasized that the fate and destiny of Afghanistan should be decided by the nation of the country. We take note of all the meaningful initiatives and peace initiatives in Afghanistan, and we hope that the practical fruits of these efforts will be coming quickly. We need to find solutions for implementing the new projects and social economic recovery of Afghanistan, including the realization of the specific roadmap.
Dear colleagues, this year we have celebrated the milestone of 75 years of victory over Nazism. Against the backdrop of global challenges and threats, the bitter lessons of the Second World War warn us about the need to show unity in maintaining sustainable peace, stability, peacefulness, and peaceful life of humankind. This year, the global community has also celebrated another historical event, that is the 75 years since the creation of the United Nations. The UN remains the main platform to achieve consensus on key matters of international security and sustainable development. During its chairmanship, Tajikistan intends to do everything in its power to strengthen the international clout of the SCO. And we intend to continue the practice of holding joint high-level meetings between the SCO and the UN. We'll provide comprehensive support in facilitating interaction between observer states and dialogue partners, and to galvanize practical cooperation with regional partner organizations on similar tasks. We'll do everything necessary to strengthen the legislation framework for cooperation within the SCO. Dear colleagues, it is with great pleasure that I would like to invite you to the anniversary summit of the SCO member states that we plan to hold next year on the 16th and the 17th of September in the capital of Tajikistan. I'm convinced that with the support of the member states and the permanent bodies, we'll have a meaningful joint work. In the end, I'd like to use this opportunity and express my gratitude for your warm words of congratulations and all the best wishes to me and my country. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. President, Mr. Rahmon. You, just like other colleagues, have paid attention to a number of very important issues. Radicalization among youth, that has to do with a number of factors. I will not name them out. We all know them well. We have to not only know them well, but also to counter these threats. You have also spoken about the fact that the fight against drug trafficking remains very relevant. I fully agree with you. Despite everyone's attention being grabbed by the pandemic of the coronavirus infection, still the drug problem remains. It is still with us. We shouldn't forget about it. We should fight it. I would also like to take note of your proposal to organize free transportation of socially critical goods. And Russia fully supports this approach. As you know, we're actually all for dismantling all kind of limitations and sanctions, at least for this segment, that's food and healthcare goods and such goods. Because in this situation where many countries are suffering from the evil of coronavirus, other countries that always keep talking about the humanitarian principles in their domestic and foreign policy, in these conditions, they still continue to limit the deliveries of medicine and medical goods and food to those regions, those countries who are in special need of that during the pandemic. That does seem very strange. So if we all together as SCO countries will promote the dismantling of these limitations, I think it will be very just, and I would like to thank you for these proposals and ideas. Now I'd like to give the floor to the President of the Republic of Uzbekistan, Mr. Mirziyoyev. President Putin, dear heads of state, I'd like to warmly welcome all the participants of our today's meeting, the Council of the Heads of State, and I'd like to thank President of Russia, Mr. Putin. Thank you for organizing today's meeting. I would like to especially highlight how highly efficient Russian chairmanship was within the SCO, despite all hardships and difficulties caused by the pandemic. There is no doubt that the documents prepared for reviewing today will, in the future, strengthen the role and the authority of our organization and its standing in the world. I'm very happy to see Mr. Sadir Japarov in our summit. Uzbekistan, as the closest neighbor and a strategic partner, comprehensively supports the kindred nation of Kyrgyzstan in its strive to have a peaceful development and well-being. Would also welcome the agreement about the full ceasefire and all hostilities in the zone of Nagorno-Karabakh conflict that has been achieved with the active facilitation of the Russian Federation. And we express hope that the peaceful life and stability will return as soon as possible to that region. Colleagues, today the SCO is at a comprehensively new stage of its development. The pandemic that has caused rapid shrinking of trade and economic ties, decreased production rate, growing unemployment, it has a very negative impact on our development. Alongside with this, there is growing political tensions in certain parts of the region. There are growing disagreements based on religious and ethnic differences. And these challenges, these global challenges, can be overcome by bringing together our traditions of good neighbor relations, mutual trust and consideration for each other's interests. Today, it is as important as ever to strengthen the Shanghai spirit, this unique experience of multilateral cooperation that is our common heritage, that expresses our strive for joint development, respect to the diversity of cultures. The SCO is strong only when every one of us is strong. Therefore, the joint support and finding compromise on key matters is extremely important. And with this approach, we see as the main condition for maintaining security, stable development in the Eurasian space. That is in line with the aspirations and hopes of our nations. Dear participants of the summit, if you'd allow, I would like to give you certain points on our vision of the relevant issues on the SCO agenda. First, special attention requires the development of our cooperation in economics. The first one, number one, is the revival of trade and economic cooperation and better economic ties. We're sure that the most efficient way to achieve that is to bring to life our joint anti-crisis programs that foresee the dismantling of barriers in mutual trade, simplification of customs procedures, making them coherent and harmonized. The digital commerce is growing between our countries. We should also facilitate foreign investments. I suggest we work on our new approaches, joint approaches, out-of-the-box thinking. And have you said, President Putin, just now, when we talk about our humanitarian purposes and goals, but we close down our roads, that is very concerning for us. The development of our trade and economic and investment ties during the pandemic should be the basis for the SCO plan to implement the program of trade and economic cooperation. Of crucial importance is the development of specific measures how to implement the program of cooperation in food security and safety. We also promote the adoption of a program to stimulate cooperation between the business communities of our countries. Number two, the pandemic has sped up the process of digitalization. Information technologies become the driver behind the economic growth. And I suggest we work on the development of the SCO program on increasing digital literacy, aimed at preparing our nations and building our national capacity building with our harmonized national programs. And I believe it is timely that we adopt a statement on digital economy today. Number three, today it is very important to direct our concerted effort to help the most vulnerable sectors of society and to decrease the scale of poverty. Coordinating our efforts is extremely important. I believe it's important to create a mechanism for agencies working in combating poverty, and they should work together. I think we should work together on that within the SCO too. I also welcome that there is a forum on Afghanistan and that we have our common program. I believe that implementing this initiative will benefit from the great experience of the People's Republic of China. Number four, it is very important to expand our joint combating of new threats and challenges to the lives and livelihoods of our countries. Today, humankind is coming across previously unknown diseases, and combating them is becoming a routine thing in our lives. Therefore, we welcome the adoption of a comprehensive plan of joint measures to combat the threats of epidemics at today's summit. It's important to translate it into reality and to have a comprehensive exchange of information about the spread of dangerous communicable diseases. In order to build better cooperation between the dedicated agencies of our countries, we suggest to create a network of healthcare facilities in order to find communicable, possibly epidemiological diseases. And for that, we have programs for exchange of best practices in prevention, treatment, and mitigation of epidemic diseases. We would like to create teams of doctors and to expand their education as well. We'd like to use this opportunity and to welcome and thank all of our partners, first of all, Russia and China, those who have held Uzbekistan in fighting the pandemic infection. During the pandemic, it is of utmost importance to introduce new remote technologies in healthcare. And with that, we believe it is important and reasonable to create a concept of cooperation in telemedicine, in remote medicine. We could look at possible education for doctors using remote technologies for their treatment of communicable diseases and for them to exchange experience in that regard. Number five, countering terrorism, extremism, and drug trafficking. This still is on the table, and this issue is becoming more and more relevant. There is a growing role of information communication technologies, social networks in recruitment and radicalization of the youth. And with that in mind, it's becoming ever more relevant to adjust RAT's SCO to how to solve the principally new tasks and challenges that arise on the space of the SCO. And with that, we need to increase drastically the number of working contacts of law enforcement and security services and to have them working seamlessly together. Considering today's situation, the agreement of joint measures in order to counter threats and challenges, including in information and technological sphere. Our common contribution to strengthening peace and security in the SCO hands on that contribution. And we suggest we expand our win-win cooperation with observer states and dialogue partners, as well as international organizations. Dear heads of state, today it is so important not to miss the historical opportunity to achieve the long-awaited peace in Afghanistan. The peace and security in that country should be seen as an important part of stability and economic prosperity of the overall SCO development. Thanks to the efforts of the global community, including the SCO countries, Afghanistan shows hopeful signs for the future settlement of the conflict. It's important to join efforts to support the positive signals of moving towards peace, providing economic aid to the Afghan people. I believe that engaging Afghanistan in regional trade and economic processes will be also beneficial for Afghanistan. And with that in mind, we promote further adoption of the plan for economic measures in order to achieve socio-economic rebuilding of Afghanistan within the contact group SCO Afghanistan. A new promises is given to us by new transportation corridors that could bring Afghanistan back to its important role of bridging as the bridge between the Central and Southern Asia. We suggest to discuss these issues in April 2021 in Tashkent at the International Conference of Central and South Asia, regional interconnectedness, opportunities and challenges. And simultaneously, I'd like to hold, in the run-up to the 20th anniversary of our organization, to hold an important conference, the role of the SCO and its role in the international relations. Dear heads of delegations, please allow me to also congratulate the President of Tajikistan, Emomali Rahmon, with assuming the presidency in the SCO. I'd like to wish you every success in executing this honorable and very responsible mission. Thank you so much. I would also like to thank Mr. Mirziyoyev for his intervention, and I would like to highlight a number of important issues. First, I believe it is important and relevant that the President of Uzbekistan has suggested to adopt a program of digital literacy. Russia has a number of programs in this sphere, including as a part of the development of digital economy. And for sure, naturally, it would be useful for us, so we could exchange information, expertise on that. We could organize our joint work on that. As for your proposal to create a network of medical healthcare facilities, I think that's also very important. At the first stage, we could create a system of exchanging the necessary and crucial information in that regard. For example, protocols for treatment and best ways to treat patients, as well as to create a system of how to educate the staff, at least those countries who need that. As for the promotion of the idea of defining the role of the SCO in global relations, that is very topical, especially considering the upcoming anniversary of the organization. Thank you for your statement. I would like to thank all member states. Thank you for your substantial statements. We've heard interesting evaluations of the situation in the SCO. We heard useful ideas that have to do with the activity of our organization. It's important that all these ideas and comments and proposals are aimed at the further development of a fruitful cooperation within SCO and strengthening of its standing in the international arena. I'm positive that the work will continue in the same vein at the heads of Government Council, slated for the 30th of November this year, also as a video conference. I suggest for the heads of the permanent SCO bodies to have the floor. And first, I'd like to give the floor to the Secretary General of the SCO, Mr. Vladimir Norov. Please, you have the floor.
Mr. President, thank you. Distinguished heads of state and government, I join others in expressing my gratitude to Russia and personally to President Putin for organizing the summit. We have submitted to your attention a report on the SCO activities, and this report is testimony to the fact that even amid the difficulties created by the coronavirus pandemic under Russia's presidency, we were consistently pursuing greater foreign policy coordination of our countries, improving joint mechanisms for multifaceted cooperation, and also improving the international standing of our organization. This year marks the 75th anniversary of the victory in the Great World War, Second World War, as well as the establishment of the UN. And this year, the countries have shown a great deal of solidarity and mutual assistance, showing a good example of equal and mutually beneficial partnership. The SCO is increasingly relevant because it's an efficient platform to come up with collective measures to overcome epidemiological, political, social, and economic consequences of the pandemic and the Shanghai spirit. We've taken and made full use of the mechanism of cooperation in healthcare and sanitary and epidemiological welfare, and together with the comprehensive plan of action to take joint measures to overcome epidemics in the region. These instruments have been used together in tandem. And we were also successfully cooperating under the UN banner, also sharing the SCO experience in fighting terrorism, separatism, extremism, and the drug threat, in particular in the field of ICTs. The relevant statements we're adopting today demonstrate our willingness to work together to find joint approaches to counteract the threats to peace and stability in the region. And we've managed to create a great groundwork for further deepening our dialogue and search for carefully thought-through decisions to improve the mechanism that guarantee security in the SCO and modernize the new and the existing structures. We also make an emphasis on the roadmap of the SCO Afghanistan contact group, given the good dynamics in this process. Over this period, we've also done a great deal of work addressing the economic and humanitarian aspect of our organization. In November last year, we adopted a program for multilateral trade and economic cooperation, which paves the way for a comprehensive, multifaceted, multi-industry cooperation with an emphasis on digitalization and high-tech. A number of key ideas of this document are going to see a reflection in the concept of cooperation to develop remote and rural territories during the digital age, which we are adopting today. And it is also going to be complemented by the plan of action to implement the SCO development strategy until 2025, which seeks to recover the economies after the pandemic as soon as possible. Amid these efforts in analysis and in personnel requirements for social and economic development of our countries, we would like to highlight how important it is that the first sessions of the Economic Analytical Centers Consortium and the Coordinating Council have held their first meetings, and there are new mechanisms such as the Regional Forum and the Inter-Party SCO Plus Forum that have been launched. We pay a great deal of attention to the plan of action of the SCO program of cooperation and food security. We're also intensifying our interaction with the UN system to raise the organization's potential in transport logistics, digital technology, healthcare, and agriculture. At the same time, we're in close contact with the leading partner associations in Eurasia. I refer in particular to the Eurasian Economic Union, the CSTO, the CIS and ASEAN. We've also set up a pragmatic dialogue with the OSCE, and we're also studying the possibility of formalizing our ties with the Arab League. The Secretariat is in constant contact with the observer nations as well as our dialogue partners in accordance with the relevant roadmap. Distinguished heads of state and government, the decisions you are adopting today as well as the initiatives you are proposing will open new horizons for mutually beneficial multifaceted cooperation under the SCO aegis. The Secretariat is going to do everything in its power to implement them in practice during the forthcoming Tajik chairmanship. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you very much. Next, I give the floor to the Director of the Executive Committee of the Regional Anti-Terrorist Structure of the SCO, Mr. Giyosov. The floor is yours. Please, go ahead. Mr. President, distinguished heads of state and government, distinguished participants of the summit, allow me to express gratitude to the Russian presidency for the initiative of holding out today's meeting as a video conference. Amid the coronavirus pandemic, this format allows the SCO standing bodies to ensure stability of our activities as well as swiftly address the tasks of further deepening our cooperation in all areas. The regional anti-terrorist structure of the SCO and its executive committee are also adapting their activities to the current realities. The structure has taken measures to ensure smooth and swift interaction of the relevant bodies of the SCO countries, which allows us to retain a high level of information exchange and also to coordinate our efforts to fight terrorist, separatist and extremist manifestations in the SCO territories, according to the data available to the committee. International terrorist organizations are still very much active, with an emphasis on using ICTs to promote terrorist ideology, to carry out recruitment and propaganda, and also to manage its cells. We see that militants, fighters are still infiltrating from Syria and Iraq back to their country of origins and also to the CSO countries. And in this context, we are concerned by the current dynamics in the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan. We see a growing number of fighters going to the north of the countries. The military potential of ISIL-K is increasing its presence. The leaders of these organizations are working actively with the commanders of such terrorist organizations as the Islamic Movement of Turkestan, the Islamic Movement of Eastern Turkestan, the fighting wing of the Islamic Revival Party, Jamaat Ansarullah. We see their concentration along the border of certain Central Asian countries, and they're coordinating their efforts and attacks, which poses a significant threat to the SCO countries. Given that the relevant bodies of the SCO countries are taking comprehensive and efficient measures to implement the decisions of the SCO summit and also to implement measures adopted by the Regional Anti-Terrorist Structure Council to fight terrorism, separatism, and extremism. And these activities are giving some yields, some positive results. We see them. And in 2019, thanks to an active information exchange, we managed to uncover 288 terrorism or religious extremism-based crimes, neutralized 78 underground cells of terrorists, eliminated 193 fighters, and more than 23,000 internet pages have been shut down because they contain terrorist or extremist content. We're also continuing to develop our partner network. Among our priorities is developing international cooperation with the relevant anti-terrorist bodies of the UN. In February 2020, New York saw the signing of an MOU between the regional anti-terrorist structure and the UNCT STO, our delegation also presented briefs at a number of events organized under the UN banner. Our structure is also working with other international organizations. We've participated in a number of conferences organized by Interpol, the CSTO, the OSCO, and other partners. The committee is working to enshrine and formalize our relations with the relevant bodies of the SCO dialogue partners. We see a surge in threats and challenges to security, and that is why we are going to further coordinate the activities of the relevant bodies of the SCO to efficiently implement the decisions of the summit, the cooperation program of the SCO to fight terrorism, separatism and extremism for 2019-2021, as well as the SCO strategy of development until 2025. Apart from that, I believe it is important that in the coming years the committee takes an active part in the efforts aimed at reforming the structure and reinforcing our cooperation in security. In conclusion, I would like to express my gratitude to the heads of state and government, as well as to the SCO Secretary General for the high assessment and constant support provided to this structure. In particular, in terms of filling the vacancies at the structure, I'm confident that through working together, we can set up an efficient system for collective security, and further, it is going to be an important factor ensuring peaceful and constructive development. Thank you very much. And I, for one, would like to say that our structures are creating a great contribution to ensuring smooth activities of our association. We see that the tasks at hand are becoming increasingly voluminous and also complex. That is why we need to constantly pay attention to personnel, technical and financial issues. And the reports of the standing bodies of the SCO are going to be adopted by the decisions of this summit. Right now, I would like to address the observer nations, and I'm going to give them the floor. And in accordance with the Russian alphabet, the first speaker is going to be the President of the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan. President Ghani, the floor is yours.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. President Putin, Excellencies, we meet at a time of exceptional global turbulence with the specter of COVID-19 haunting our interconnected world. Allow me to express our deepest sympathies to CO member and observer countries for the loss of life and livelihood of their fellow citizens. Let me thank President Putin for focusing our attention on strengthening and further development of cooperation within the framework of the SCO to overcome COVID-19 and other threats. SCO is a unique opportunity to accelerate the transformation of Eurasia into a continental economy through economic, political, and security cooperation. This is key to overcoming the threats and generating the momentum for global recovery and sustained growth. Positioned at the heart of Asia, Afghanistan is right at the center of the untapped potential that could bring enhanced prosperity and peace to the region. Estimates show that peace in Afghanistan could enhance the rate of growth of our neighbors by 1 to 2%. Having been at the intersection of famed Asian roads, ranging from the Grand Trunk and Lapis Lazuli to Silk and Spice roads, we were an Asian roundabout, where goods, ideas, and people flowed freely and civilizations enriched each other. By location, history, outlook, and choice, we are poised to provide a platform for regional and global cooperation, especially by connecting Central, South, and West Asia to and from East Asia by land and by air and digitally. Realization of this vision however, requires collective action against forces of disorder, particularly drug traffickers and terrorist networks that are bent on destroying us to exploit our location for the pursuit of their delusions. We, the people and government of Afghanistan, have chosen to overcome the past. Your consensus, distinguished leaders, to support the quest of the Afghan people to achieve peace and prosperity within the constitutional framework of our Islamic Republic will have positive consequences, not only for us, but also for the realization of the Eurasian open moment in history. We were fortunate to contain the first wave of this pandemic. National focus in regional and international cooperation have been critical to our efforts. Domestically, we mobilized the government rapidly, articulating a clear delineation of the phases into acknowledgement, diffusion, adversity, relief, and recovery. Redirecting resources, mobilizing the public, coordinating with the private sector, and providing direct support to 4.5 million households, nearly 90% of our population. Regionally, keeping the supply chains open was our top priority. We gratefully acknowledge the cooperation of Turkmenistan, Azerbaijan, Georgia, and Turkey on the Lapis Lazuli corridor. Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Russia, China, and Tajikistan in keeping the railway and food supply chains open on the Silk and wheat roads. India provided over 100,000 tons of wheat at a critical time when markets were jittery through the Chabar corridor and kept the air corridor open. Iran opened its transport corridors and offered free medical assistance to Afghan refugees, resulting in a very significant slowdown in the flow of returnees. Pakistan gradually opened the transit, introduced a more liberal visa regime. These timely actions enabled the markets to fully function, allowing for delivery of basic goods, particularly food, across the country. We also gratefully acknowledge international support, particularly of the Asian Development Bank, the European Union, IMF, the World Bank, the US, and other partners for our health sector. We look forward to expanding this cooperation. And we look very much forward to working with the SCO on containing the second wave. We're poised to accelerate large projects of regional connectivity and commence new ones. CASA 1000, the Khawaf-Herat Railway, Aqina and Khoi Railway, TAP fiber optics, and the 1,000 megawatts project from Uzbekistan to Afghanistan will all start construction in Afghanistan or be completed next year. We will be seeking joint financing with Uzbekistan for the Mazar-Kabul Railway and expand our railway network significantly. We've signed a memorandum of understanding with Fortescue Metals Group to transform Afghanistan into a center of green industry through production of 20,000 megawatts from hydro and use it to produce zero-emission steel and other products from an estimated 1 trillion mineral resources. We are also poised to develop 70,000 megawatts from wind and 220,000 megawatts from solar. Multi-alignment, whereby we enhance our alignment of interest with all our regional and global partners, but avoid becoming a party to their disagreements and disputes, is the guiding principle of our foreign policy. Mutual interest, respect, and trust will enable us to achieve the end state of a sovereign, united, peaceful, and democratic Afghanistan, capable of expanding the gains of the past 19 years. To realize this objective, we must face the evolution of violence and warfare. We're living and dying inside the fifth wave of global terrorism, in which global terrorist networks are closely linked with global criminal organizations, particularly drug and human traffickers, making warfare totally unconventional and peace building even more challenging. We are ready and able to expand our cooperation with the SCO members and observers in counterterrorism and counter-narcotics. Although our Air Force, commandos and special forces account for 10% of our national security and defense forces, we spend 48% of our resources on them. Their capacity and capability is such that 98% of counterterrorism operations are now Afghan-led. We are proud that we have dealt with threats against in your countries consistently and decisively. State-to-state cooperation within a regional and global framework is key to dealing with all terrorist networks attempting to disrupt peace, progress, and cooperation. Dealing with the threat of narcotics, of concern to every parent and family, requires a framework where the responsibilities of producers, processors, suppliers of precursors, transit hubs, traffickers, financiers, and consumers are clearly delineated. As drug addiction has become a serious problem in our own society, we are ready to deal with this regional and global challenge with a true sense of urgency. Though we are facing multiple forms of turmoil, peace remains our most urgent and important priority. As a state and society, we have demonstrated the commitment, compassion, and courage to make hard decisions to start direct talks and negotiations with the Taliban. Unfortunately, not only the promised reduction of violence and comprehensive ceasefire has not been realized, but the violence by the Taliban is increased substantially. The inhuman attack on Kabul University, regardless of who claimed responsibility, is a symptom of the cult of violence and reliance on drug production and smuggling of our natural capital and cultural heritage as a source of funding that requires a reality check. The principles of equal rights of citizens in a republic enshrined in our constitution establish the ground for a peaceful integration of the Taliban into the polity, economy, and society of a democratic Afghanistan. Opinion surveys consistently show 75 to 85% support for the republic, while support to Taliban ranges from 4 to 8%. Imposition of the will of a minority on the absolute majority can only lead to prolonged conflict. As respect for sovereignty is a cardinal principle of SCO, we ask all of you to support a sustainable peace process within the framework of the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan. Disruption of the constitutional order will have massive negative implications for the SCO, among them disruption of the formation of the Eurasian continental economy and expansion of terrorist and criminal networks. UN Security Resolution 2513, for the adoption of which we thank Russia and China particularly, is an excellent guide to conducting peace talks. A strong consensus within the SCO will enable us to reach to an agreement on the process of making peace. Building peace where refugees and displaced people are reintegrated and all components of the nation truly reconciled would require strong state capacity and dynamic market momentum to lift us from poverty to moderate prosperity. We are in a truly open historic moment. Our 4 decades of suffering, particularly for our women and children, can end. Please harness the Shanghai spirit to overcome the tragic past and create the future of cooperation together. I congratulate President Rahman on assuming the presidency of SCO and thank again President Putin for the excellent coordination. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. You have mentioned that we are still chased by the ghost of the coronavirus. Still, the ghosts are still just chasing us while the virus actually kills, and I think that we should fight it together. And I also fully agree with you in the need to join the efforts to put the situation with coronavirus back on track, and as good neighbors will do our best to help you in your internal matters. And now I give the floor to Prime Minister of Belarus, Roman Golovchenko. Distinguished Mr. President, distinguished participants, Belarus pays specific attention to the work of the SCO. It is due to the substantial role that the organization plays in the regional and global security. But besides that, SCO member states are closest friends of Belarus, who can extend a helping hand just like Russia did when the situation gets difficult, which happened right after the presidential elections in our country, which was mentioned by the President Putin in his welcoming remarks. In 2020, the world encountered the pandemic of the new kind. It exposed many internal vulnerabilities in the political, socio-economic, and humanitarian domains. As we fought against the virus, we saw that no single country in the world was able or was actually ready to address this new challenge alone. Regrettably, the global community, as it were, did not show neither unity nor mutual assistance and spirit of cooperation. At the same time, certain countries used coronavirus for reaching their own political ends and used it as a cover-up to achieve some short-term gains. In the fight against pandemics, Belarus went its own way, and as time has shown, our choice was rather efficient. I suggest that we prepare a plan of actions within the SCO for fighting the epidemics, and Belarus stands ready to share our practices. The COVID-19 has slowed down the global economy, has exacerbated the food security issues. We see that today the transportation and interconnectivity is a crucial thing, especially for supplying the medical equipment and protective gear. Today, time is the most valuable resource, and Belarus started using the satellite navigation security seals that help to facilitate the border security formalities and accelerate the movement of shipments, both nationally and on the Eurasian space. I suggest we use the successful experience of Belarus and join efforts to implement this project in all the SCO states. Despite the high-flown statements, global financial institutions were not fully ready to deliver on its promises of material aid to recipient countries. We saw political bias, we saw lack of impartiality, and the SCO, therefore, needs its own and independent development financing fund. The developments of the recent months have shown that IT and means of communication can be used to distort the public opinion and destabilize the situation in a certain country. Internet is used to spread and disseminate the terrorist and extremist ideology. We see the direct interferences into sovereign affairs, which is why it's crucial today to develop a basic set of guidelines for information space and to identify the means of responding, which is why we think that Chinese global initiative in information security is very relevant, and it's fully consonant with our own initiative on the good neighborly digital belt. Now, colleagues, this year is a landmark date. It's the 75th anniversary in the Second World War and the victory over fascism. Back then, 75 years ago, our common victory was only made possible through unity, coherence, and the joint urge to live peacefully and harmoniously. I think that in this changing world, the SCO should stay committed to the underlying charter principles and Shanghai spirit, which helped the organization to develop successfully. In conclusion, I want to underscore that Belarus stands ready to actively build up cooperation with the SCO, biggest regional organization that brings together almost a half of all people on Earth. We stand ready and open to all meaningful and mutually beneficial initiatives, including those mentioned today. We are grateful to Russia for its proactive chairmanship in the organization in these trying times, and we wish our Tajikistan colleagues every success in their endeavors. Thank you. Thank you, Prime Minister, for your remarks, for your proposals and comments made. And now I give the floor to the President of the Islamic Republic of Iran, His Excellency Hassan Rouhani. In the name of Allah, the gracious, the merciless, glory to Him and the Prophet Muhammad. Distinguished Mr. President, distinguished heads of states, distinguished prime ministers, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I wanted to extend my gratitude to the President of the Russian Federation, President Putin. I want to thank him and his team for putting together this event. I am also grateful to be present as this meeting, albeit held in the video conference format. Today, the world is going through difficult times. From the one hand, we have the coronavirus. It is a peril to human lives. It disrupts the economies. It deteriorates the quality of life of the citizens. On the other hand, we see unilateralism on the rise. We see disrespect for international law and international institutions clearly demonstrated by the United States. It hinders the efforts of the like-minded states that wish to join the ranks and act together, fighting the common challenges. We need to respond to this global challenge of the coronavirus pandemics. To do so, the SCO member states have to implement a shared approach and coordinate its efforts with the United Nations and the WHO. This would help us to ensure full, universal, equitable access to medication and medical equipment for all the citizens of the region and of the world. The Islamic Republic of Iran has extended humanitarian aid to certain regional states to help them cope with the difficult situation, and we are ready to share our practices of fighting the COVID-19. We stand ready to share our practices with the SCO member states. Your Excellencies, the Islamic Republic of Iran has always underscored its principled stance and its principled policy of good neighborly relations, of establishing dialogue and building confidence and trust between the Eurasian states in the Persian Gulf, in Western and Southern Asia. And we think that only through cooperation, partnership, and peace we'll be able to tackle the common challenges. The so-called HOPE initiative, the Astana peace process, the support for peace and stability in Afghanistan, and the emphasis on extension of multilateral cooperation between the SCO members are good examples of Iranian attention and emphasis on sustainable peace and security both regionally and globally. The Islamic Republic of Iran welcomes the support within the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. We appreciate its contribution to tackling regional and global challenges in both political and economic domains. Iran views the security in the neighboring states as part of its own security, and we seek to build greater stability in the region, which is why we will continue working with our partners and the SCO in order to efficiently fight terrorism, extremism, and illegal drug trade. Gentlemen, one of the critical pillars of our cooperation is the fight against terrorism, extremism, and separatism. Prevention of the extremist ideology from taking root and fighting back against the illegal sources of funding of such cooperation is a crucial effort for us. We also need to identify the sponsors, the financial resources and the financial flows of funding of terrorist organizations, and those are part of the SCO mandate in terms of collective security. In this context, Iran, proceeding from its long-time experience of fight against terrorism, terrorist organizations in Syria and Iraq, wants to reiterate its readiness to tackle extremism in the region. Earlier this year, one of the greatest military commanders of Islamic Republic of Iran, General Qasem Soleimani, was cowardly assassinated by the very founders and sponsors of the terrorist movements and Tajfiridis. Still, we are ready to continue our fight until the complete victory over the terrorist groups and the fight against foreign occupation. It is in this vein that the Iranian resolution entitled World Against Violence and Extremism was adopted by 190 states and the United Nations General Assembly in 2013, which means that it can serve as a foundation for the follow-up action by the United Nations going forward. Colleagues, the Islamic Republic of Iran is a neighbor of Azerbaijan and of Armenia. We share many historical similarities with these nations, which is why we welcome the recent decision achieved by the two countries and facilitated by Russia to agree on ceasefire and launch the diplomatic resolution process. We hope that the two countries will be able to set aside the differences and settle the conflict through peaceful means and according to the international law. In this regard, we have proposed a peace plan of ceasefire, of establishing ceasefire, and we stay in close contact and consultation with all the parties to the conflict. We keep all the options on the table as to how we can establish peace and stability in this region. Gentlemen, foreign policy of Iran has always been based on the principles of good neighborliness and mutual cooperation. as well as building greater economic relationship with the neighboring countries, which would help to boost the economic development of the region at large. It is with this in mind that Iran has proposed many initiatives on interaction with the neighboring countries. Well-being and prosperity of the citizens of the region remains one of our priorities. We need to eradicate poverty, and to do so, we need to fully leverage the cooperation opportunities. Extending the energy transfer lines and expanding the transportation routes are key tools for regional cooperation. The Islamic Republic of Iran is one of the key links in the channels of energy transfer and one of the key transportation routes in the world, which can boast the access to 2 seas and a unique strategic geographic location, is able to help to satisfy the energy needs of many regional states and the states beyond the SCO region. Iranian location within the many transport corridor, including the north-south corridor, can be an enabler in the process of settling certain geopolitical concerns of many friendly states of ours. It brings me joy to say that once the new transport route on the East Caspian segment will be completed, the north-south corridor will go into full effect and will offer us more opportunities for the transshipments. Besides, we leave no stone unturned as we try to finalize the Resh-Pastara railway corridor construction, which will help facilitate the transportation from Persian Gulf to Russia and Northern Europe. By doing so, we will fulfill one of the long-time aspiration of ours. In the recent days to come, we will also launch the operation of the Haf-Gerat railway road. This railway will be a valuable gift to our neighbor, to Afghanistan, that will help it get out of the deadlock. And as we extend this railway to Nazar-e-Sharif, will open up the way to other Asian states, which will, by doing so, gain access to the sea and to the markets of Iran and many other Middle Eastern states.
Your Excellencies, in the past years, the economic and political multilateralism has been greatly jeopardized. And one certain regime, using bullying, was trying to impose its domestic agenda and laws upon the global community. The current U.S. regime has illegally withdrawn from JCPOA, the agreement that has been endorsed by the UN Security Council. It has also withdrawn from other international treaties, including the Paris Climate Agreement. That has shown that this regime is not bothered and concerned by political and economic multilateralism. This regime, as it has been said, prefers the interests of the U.S. and values them above everyone else's. And they do not follow trade and economic rules, but they follow the domestic priorities. The result of the U.S. elections shows that the country that constantly uses threats and sanctions, as well as violence against other countries, proved that their foreign policy has lost its way, and now it's a time for new leaders in the U.S. that could get the message from their own nation. So they would get the message that they need to change their course of action in the foreign policy. Going back to the legislation and widely acknowledged norms, they're now cognizant of the fact that they need to treat with respect international law, and they have to compensate the damage caused to other countries. In the end, I'd like to use this opportunity and to thank once again the President of the Russian Federation and everyone who took part in the organization of this session. I would like to wish to the government and the nation of Russia every success and prosperity. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. President. I fully join your appeal to respect the fundamental norms and principles of international law. Without that, the world cannot evolve positively. That is a necessary precondition. And the same goes to your evaluation of the settlement in the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict. Indeed, to give a peaceful solution to such complex, difficult nexus of conflicts, it's necessary to find compromises, to find them. And for that, we need the courage of the decision makers. And in that regard, we all should support the Prime Minister of Armenia, Mr. Pashinyan, and the President of the Republic of Azerbaijan, Mr. Aliyev, should join them in their commitment to create the conditions for the peaceful development of the situation in the region and to make the decision in the interests of long-term building of relations between Armenians and Azerbaijanians. As for the practical approach, I cannot help but highlight your further plans and the implemented projects in railroad infrastructure. We all together, as countries in the region, have additional opportunities and capacities in the development of railroad infrastructure, create the conditions for further consistent development of the economy in the widest sense of the word. Thank you so much for your statement. Now the floor goes to the President of Mongolia, Mr. Batulgai. Please, you have the floor. Dear Mr. Putin, dear heads of state, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to express the gratitude to the Russian Federation for organizing this event.
Коронавирус талдвар энэ цар тахал дэлхийд дахинд аюул учруулж байна. Олон хүн халдвар авч олон хүн амнасаа алдлаа. Монгол улс цар тахлын халдварыг дотооддоо алдаагүй нас орсон тохиолдол бүртгэгдээгүй цөөхөн орнуудын нэг юм а. Гэсэн хэдий ч бид бусад улс орнуудын адил иргэдийнхээ аж амьдрал
other dimensions in our cooperation, we'll continue to closely work together. I would like to thank our colleagues for your statements. I'd like to say that Shanghai Cooperation Organization has created all the necessary conditions to engage observer states in the work in different dimensions. We welcome your active participation in the SCO activity, including in coordinating efforts in international affairs, in joint fight against terrorism, drug trafficking, and organized crime, in development of trade, economic, and humanitarian ties. As you know, already 16 countries has expressed their wish to join our organization or to improve its status within the SCO, to raise its status to an observer state or a fully fledged member. And that testifies to the fact of the great clout of the SCO at the international arena. I proceed from the assumption that the members of our organization will be careful and attentive in their evaluations of the incoming appeals in order to consider their interests in strengthening and development of the SCO. Dear friends, colleagues, as I have already mentioned, the video statement has been sent in by the UN Secretary General, Mr. Guterres. I suggest to watch the video together.
I thank the chairmanship of the Russian Federation for the opportunity to address this meeting of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. And I thank the members of the SCO for your firm commitment to inclusive multilateralism and the principles of the United Nations Charter. As we mark the 75th anniversary of the UN, the world finds itself at a critical juncture. The COVID-19 pandemic is a global health crisis with unprecedented social and economic consequences. We also face an escalating climate emergency and increasing geopolitical tensions. The pandemic has exacerbated vulnerabilities, inequalities and fragilities across the world. The recovery will require global cooperation to protect lives and livelihoods and to keep economies and businesses afloat. We count on the strong engagement of SCO member states, and we stand ready to share good practices and provide technical expertise to your pandemic recovery plans. I welcome the support of the SCO as a leading player in regional diplomacy in Eurasia for my appeal for a global ceasefire. I look forward to your further advocacy and action to end hostilities around the world before the end of this year. When people fight each other, the only winner is the virus. We have seen this most recently in Armenia and Azerbaijan, where the pandemic has taken on new ferocity since the conflict reignited. Regular exchanges between the United Nations and the SCO provide us with ways to enhance our cooperation on regional issues. The revitalized SCO Afghanistan Contact Group is an important forum to advance regional efforts in support of peace in Afghanistan during a crucial period when the opportunities for peace are being tested and the lives of civilians are at continued risk. The signing of a memorandum of understanding between our respective counter-terrorism offices in February of this year was a significant step forward in our cooperation against the scourge of terrorism. As the landscape evolves and new threats emerge, we look forward to benefiting from the SCO's regional expertise to strengthen our joint assistance to member states. Excellencies, the climate crisis, like the pandemic, is a global threat that knows no borders. Here too, ambitious multilateral action is urgently needed to save lives and livelihoods. The Paris Agreement and the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development underpin the work of the United Nations and should be central to national decision-making too. The tide is turning. The European Union, Japan, the Republic of Korea, together with more than 110 other countries, have committed to net zero emissions by 2050, and China before 2060. I call on more governments to join this net zero coalition and to align their COVID-19 recovery plans and national determined contribution for climate action with this objective. And I urge all governments to bring concrete policies and plans to the Climate Ambition Summit I will co-host with several member states on the 12th of December. Excellencies, from human rights and humanitarian aid programs to gender equality and environmental protection, The Sustainable Development Goals have an important role in preventing conflict and preserving peace and security. Greater inclusivity, particularly through increasing the engagement and participation of women, is central to these efforts. We cannot hope to meet the challenges of our age if we exclude the perspectives and expertise of half of our population. Women's leadership and participation is essential to creating stronger, more resilient communities and societies that can withstand shocks of all kinds, from health crises to natural disasters. Finally, there is no peace or sustainable development without human rights. At this time of global crisis, it is also crucial to protect civic space, media freedom, and to listen to the voices of all sectors of society, including the most marginalized. I look forward to strengthening the ties between our respective organizations. Together, through complementary approaches and strategies, including preventive diplomacy, we can overcome challenges and contribute to lasting peace and stability in the SCO region. Thank you.
Dear colleagues, let's thank UN Secretary General for his statement. As we can see, he touched upon the issues that we have actively discussed today. That is, the ways trying to solve the most acute crisis situations, fighting the pandemic and coronavirus infection, overcoming the crises in the wider sense of the world. That is, the environment and the environmental issues. I would like to thank all of you for your active and engaged participation in this discussion. Thank you for your meaningful statements. We have discussed key issues of the development of our cooperation and the outlook for further, deeper cooperation, including in the context of our efforts in fighting coronavirus epidemic. We have stated that we have coinciding approaches to the majority of topical international issues and concerns. It's important that our countries are prepared to further work together and to help build multifaceted cooperation within Shanghai Cooperation Organization. We have prepared an impressive package of documents, and let's thank our aides and staff for that. The main results are reflected in the Moscow Declaration that has the consolidated evaluation of the situation in the SCO space and in the world on the whole. It also takes stock of the Russian chairmanship and gives the new vision for the organization in the future. There are also 9 decisions prepared by the heads of State Council, including the adoption of the Plan of Action for 2021-2025, the fight against the pandemics, cooperation of SCO with a number of international organizations. Besides, we have ahead of us an adoption of 6 statements dedicated to, also including the 75th anniversary of the victory in the Second World War, joint fight against the coronavirus infection, and cooperation in digital economy. If there are no objections or any other comments, I suggest we adopt all of these documents. As for the Moscow Declaration and the decisions made by the Council, the SCO Secretariat will organize their signing procedure as a working procedure. We also intend to distribute the declarations and the statements that I have mentioned in the UN. Dear colleagues, are there no objections?
Do you have any proposals? If there are none, then I would like to thank all of you for your understanding and for supporting the fruit of our work. In conclusion, on behalf of Russia's chairmanship, I would like to thank all partners of our organization for the consistent and efficient joint work. Distinguished colleagues, next year the SCO is going to celebrate its 20th anniversary, as we've mentioned throughout our today's discussion. Over these years, we've managed to accumulate invaluable cooperation experience. We've built a very solid legal foundation, and the organization deservedly enjoys a very high place in international relations, and Tajikistan is going to take up the burden of the SCO presidency next year, the anniversary year. In that regard, I would like to wish Mr. Rahmon prosperous and very fruitful work at this position, and I would also like to take this opportunity to congratulate him on re-election as President of Tajikistan and his recent inauguration. Of course, we stand ready to support our Tajik friends in this work next year, and I would like to once again thank everyone for this fruitful work together, and I wish you and your peoples all the best. Thank you very much.